Oh, hey! I'm glad you're here. As a kid growing up in a video store, you notice one thing before directors, production companies, or cinematographers. I'm talking, of course, about those familiar faces in front of the camera. As a kid, I would hear adults come in saying, I want the newest Kevin Costner movie, like he did everything in the picture. And I think the first actor whose cinematic oeuvre, if you will, that I hunted down was the star of Oh God Book 2, and Oh God, You Devil. Yes, as I hit double digits, I also hit a serious love for George Burns. Yeah, there was something about his wit and dry sensibility which was fascinating to me. He also was very old, so as an indoor kid, his range of physical activity was on par with mine. I don't know if we can choose the actors and comedians that speak to us, but today's guest is incredibly talented and very funny. Some would describe him as a more agile George Burns. That's not true, and he doesn't smoke. His comedic talent and voice has brought me much joy, so I'm over the moons over my hammy, which is not a saying, to speak with him, so let's just get right to it. The film is Soapdish, the guest is an actor, and this is VH Us. Hello, and welcome to VHS, the podcast where each episode is about a film and the guest has the profession portrayed in the film. I'm your host, Dirk Marshall, and you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at VHUS_podcast. I'm joined in the studio by Brian Sacca, who's an actor. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Sacca,
Excited
is
to
that
be
right?
here. Sacca, yeah.
Okay, great.
A lot of people say Sacca, which is understandable because that's how it's spelled. But since I'm from the Buffalo area, it's Sacca.
Right. People can find out more about you on your website, briansacca.com, and you're Brian Sacca on Instagram and Twitter.
Yes, that's me. Thank
Perfect.
you for the shout out.
As is the case, to call you merely an actor would be a disservice. Your Wikipedia says you were born Dwight Arrington Myers. You're an actor, singer, and record producer who also had a group consisting of G Wiz, Trouble T. Roy, and Eddie F. Heavy D in the... No, wait. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's, I always have the Heavy D and the Boys Wikipedia up on my computer, and I just copy and pasted the wrong thing. I'm sorry about
Now that we found love,
Yes.
What are we going to do with it?
What are we going to do? I'm still wondering. I don't know if he actually answered that in the song.
Yeah.
Brian, you're an actor, writer, and producer. You were half of Pete and Brian, which is how I first saw you, I think, with Knock Knock, 20 Questions, Gorb. You've also been on TV shows like Single Dads, FCU, and Wrecked for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
You actually just wrote and acted in and produced Buffaloed.
Correct. Yep.
Which I watched last night. It was really great.
That's fun. Thanks, man. Thank you.
Your mullet was fantastic.
It was fake. I can't take too much.
No.
I know. I tried to grow it out, but it was just easier to put fake mullet in.
That's pretty great. Yeah, the script was fantastic. And I mean,
Thank you.
getting somebody, Zoe Dutch, is that how you say
Deutsch.
it? Deutsch. I mean, you could just, like, I could imagine the script, but her acting was just selling so much of that.
Yeah, she is a powerhouse. She was amazing. And we had a sit down, we had a lunch together right after she read the script. And I was like, this is the woman to do it. She is a brilliant human being and an incredible actress. I was super fortunate to work with her.
Yeah.
I learned, I mean, she's like 20 years younger than me, but I learned so much from watching her act that I was like, oh, I got some work to do.
And you grew up around the Buffalo area?
I grew up in a small town just north of Buffalo called Lockport, and which I reference in the movie. They talk about the Lockport Hicks in the movie because it was a farm town, and I say that because growing up, I was always referred to as a hick because I grew up in this small farm town outside of Buffalo.
Yeah. Well, from a complete outsider, it was very fascinating to get all the Bills references and the Labatt's Blue. They just called it.
Yeah, Blue. Just call it Blue. Yeah, Labatt's Blue.
I love all that, like, regional. It's fantastic. What was the process like for you? Did you just know about this world of loan?
Oh, of debt collection?
Yeah,
debt
collection.
Yeah, I had heard about it because it was such a big thing in the Buffalo area, and you know, there was people kind of like, you know, your high school dropouts, people would say like, oh yeah, they're making kind of a killing right now. And so as I started to look more into it and read more about it and find articles, I was just blown away by how how, how prevalent this world was in this town that I
Mm.
knew. For listeners, there's the movie is about the highly unregulated industry of delinquent debt collection, the people that harass you over the phone. And surprisingly, a lot of those debt collection agencies are in Buffalo, New York, or in the area surrounding Buffalo, New York. And so these guys, when I started reading about how these guys kind of acted as kind of like de facto gangs,
Hmm.
stealing debt from agencies and getting into into fights on the streets, I was like, this is a perfect venue for me to write about the weird world that is Buffalo, New York, that is Western New York. Um, what's funny is that since movies come out, I'd say like 60% of Buffalonians are like, you nailed it. This is Buffalo. And then there's 40% of Buffalonians that are like, you are the worst human being on the world,
Oh,
on the
I thought you were
planet.
gonna say they're debt collectors.
Well, yeah, that's true. It's probably all the debt collectors like, you're wrong. This
Yeah.
isn't what it's like. So, yeah,
Oh, well, I thought it was great.
thanks, man.
Yeah. Later this year, though, people can see you in Hard Luck Love Song with Eric Roberts, Dermot Mulrooney, Sophia Bush, Larissa, and more.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Here's a fun little piece of trivia. Uh, I'm excited that movie's coming out. It was just a few days for me, and I had a blast doing it. Uh, I shot that movie. Got to do my scene with the RZA, which was amazing. I shoot the
Wow.
RZA. I'm a cop who shoots the RZA. I'm a bearded cop. I'm like an idiot cop. And then I went. We wrapped that movie at like 8 in the morning on a Thursday. I went straight to the airport, flew to Toronto, shot Buffalo. We shot Buffalo in Toronto, wrapped Buffalo in Toronto, then flew straight to New York City to shoot an episode of The Last OG where I got to work with Method Man. So I was
What?
like, I got RZA and Method Man within like 6 weeks of each other. And it was
That's
just, it made me feel so good. And even at one point, I mentioned that to Method Man because he was an incredible actor to work with, so much fun. And I said, oh, I just did this thing with the RZA. And he was like, why do people cast him in shit? I can't understand a word the guy says. Why are they putting him in a movie? It was so good to me. Yeah, it was awesome.
That's hilarious. I just saw him in that the Jarmusch zombie movie, the Dead Don't
Right.
Die.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
pretty great.
Yeah.
But I just made a note. When will Hollywood stop putting the five of you in films together? Because when I read like Hard Luck Love Songs cast, I was like, this is insanity. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah.
So you
There
didn't
was
get
one.
me Dolmet?
I did. I had bizarrely met him when I was really young.
Oh,
And my uncle, who's also an actor in LA, and one of those actors you've seen in 10,000 movies,
oh wow.
was in the movie About Schmidt with Dermot Mulrooney. And uh, when they premiered it in New York, my uncle took me to the premiere,
Oh,
and
cool.
I got to meet everybody there, and that was really fun. And so it was nice to meet Dermot again. He's a super lovely dude. Um, Everybody involved in that movie was wonderful. Sophia was great.
Yeah.
I'm
Eric
forgetting the lead's
Roberts?
name. I only saw Eric Roberts for a brief moment at the
Oh.
end, and he is. I can't say this way or that about what he's like to work with, because it was this scene that we were shooting literally as the sun rose up,
Oh.
rose after a full night shoot, and we were all jumping into a freezing pool. And so Eric Roberts was in this pool, freezing
No.
his ass off. And then this fantastic actress who's, oh God, she was in all P.T. Anderson's movies. I'm forgetting her name, Mallory. Oh, she's amazing. If you see her, she's incredible.
Yeah.
She's freezing her ass off. Eric Roberts is freezing his ass off. But they were both being so polite. They were like, can we just get this shot quickly, please? Like, and so that's all I saw of them. Like, it was just really interesting. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. Oh
Yeah.
man. One of the episodes of the podcast has a comic book artist, Layla Del Duca, who's amazing.
Oh, cool.
And the film that she talks about is The Ambulance, in which Eric Roberts plays a comic book artist. who then is
Ah,
trying to find this killer ambulance situation. But so we redid the episode, and it'll come out prior to this one. And I
cool.
hired Eric Roberts through Cameo
Oh, really?
to record a message for her, and then I hired
That's
her to draw
awesome.
a picture of Eric Roberts, and then we're combining those things into the
Oh,
episode.
that's
So
great.
yeah, it
That's
hasn't come out yet,
awesome,
but
man.
man, him just getting a video in your inbox from Eric Roberts, just like talking about this Wonder Woman comic book, it's like one of my
That's
favorite
awesome.
things I think I've ever
That's
done.
amazing.
The
Uh,
reason I'm joined by Brian today is because we're brought together by the film Soapdish. Was this a first time watch for you?
this was probably like a 30th or 40th time
Okay,
watch for me.
great. That's a rarity for this. But when I looked at, I'll just show the thinking behind the episode. I was looking for a movie that was sort of an ensemble cast, because
Yeah.
one of the things that you've done is Wrecked, which is very much an ensemble cast sort of
Yep.
series. Like then I
Yep.
thought they did such a good job balancing all those characters and giving them interesting
Yeah.
storylines. So
Very
that was
much
kind
so.
of behind the scenes. At the time of this
Yeah.
recording, it's not available on Blu-ray. You can only rent the movie at Movie Madness here in Portland, or you can stream it for free through Amazon Prime. The synopsis is an ambitious television soap actress connives with her producer to scuttle the career of the show's longtime star, but nothing works as planned. What a
Yep.
synopsis!
It's interesting because that's the synopsis focuses only on one of like the 8 storylines that are
Yeah,
going on in the movie. Yeah.
it's so weird. Let's put the film into context. The director is Michael Hoffman, who did Privileged in 82, Restless Natives in 85, Some Girls in 88 with Patrick Dempsey. Have you ever met Patrick
Mm.
Dempsey?
No. So here's a weird thing about my job.
Yeah.
I I was also when I first moved to LA and started trying to get work, I was a writer for award shows. So
Okay. That
my
explains the
partner Pete and I,
credits.
yeah, exactly. My partner and I would have, we would be those, like in Soapdish, there's a writer's room where they're all around the table. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
us, but writing that horrible dialogue that you hear people say on award shows.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I've met countless famous people for like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, it's like meeting somebody, they read their patter, it's called patter, and being
Yeah.
like, do you have any changes you want to make? Does that sound good? We thought the joke would land if you did it this way. And then they
Yeah.
go and they read it horribly like they've never read it before, and then the bit's over.
And
So
you're
that's
like,
why I
that
had
was
to
a,
think about, yeah, I had to think about Patrick Dempsey because I was like, did he ever do one of our shows? Like I
right.
did like Kids Choice. I was like, did he ever go on Kids Choice? But I don't
So
think
were you guys just cheaper than Bruce Valanche, or how did it?
so. There was so many Bruce Valanche jokes that we would make. That was a constant runner.
I love
Yeah.
it. I worked at Urban Outfitters in Seattle for like a year, and he came in to buy his novelty shirts that he would wear as the center square on Hollywood Squares. And I had just watched the documentary about him and his mom, and so I was like,
Oh my
"Oh,
God.
I just watched this documentary. Your mom was great." And he goes, "Oh, I'll tell her." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I get it. I see what happened here.
Yep, there you go.
I'm supposed to just ring you up. Got it, sir. Okay."
Yep. Oh God. People can be
Uh,
horrible.
Michael Hoffman also directed Midsummer Nights and just completed a movie called Gore with Kevin Spacey, which we'll probably never see.
Oof.
Yeah, yeah. Cinematographer, we got Yuli Steiger, 2 early films with Michael Hoffman, including Soapdish. He did Jersey Boys in 95, Godzilla in 98, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me in 99, and then Bowfinger, Rockstar, and Day After Tomorrow.
I mean, he had a run right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty
Okay.
cool when you look back and be like, but he also did Soapdish.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
okay. The editor, we got Garth Craven. He did Convoy in 78, Shoot to Kill in 88, which is another episode we did on the podcast.
Oh,
Turner
wow.
and Hooch in 89. So he's
There
got
you
some
go.
Hanks and Doc work there. Soapdish, When a Man Loves a Woman, Legally Blonde, and Miss Congeniality 2, Armed and Fabulous.
That's such a bizarre, man, the trajectory of that career from
Yes.
Convoy
Yes.
to Miss Congeniality 2. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
And then you got to mention the production designers Eugenio Zanetti did Flatliners, Action Hero, and What Dreams May Come.
Wow.
And then the costume designers Nolan Miller, who worked on Dynasty, Heart to Heart, Pacific Palisades. So he's a serious player in the soap world.
I
So
was gonna say, wow, they just went right for the mark there. I get it.
yeah. And we're only going to name three of the actors because there are so many. Robert Downey
Yeah.
Jr., who started in 1970 as Bob Downey.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. That's a great
Yes.
fact.
So what kind of career do you think Bob Downey would have had in Hollywood? I think he'd either be a non-threatening neighbor or like the town drunk in 1960s westerns.
Yes, exactly.
There's Bob Downey.
Yeah, Bob Downey's coming in.
We got Sally Field, who's remarkable, and the star of another film we covered in this season, which I don't think I could say. And then Kathy Moriarty, who was in Raging Bull.
Yeah,
fantastic.
She's incredible.
But let's not waste any more time. We'll just press play on Soapdish. We start with the most 90s credit sequence set to jovial and frisky music, telling us that this is definitely going to be a romp. We see a huge crowd and learn via voiceover that it's a daytime TV awards, and we see Lisa Gibbons, who I hadn't seen in forever. Yeah. She's on the red carpet, and as the kids say these days, she's so extra. See what I did there? No one's gonna get that.
You know her as Maggie, of course, from The Sun Also Set. She's here tonight with Blair Brennan, who plays her gorgeous husband, Bolt, on the show. Celeste, my gosh, your 12th nomination as Best Daytime Actress. It must get to be old hat for you.
Oh, never, Lisa. It's always such a genuine thrill.
I have no idea if the Daytime TV Awards are a thing, but you mentioned earlier that you started writing in LA on award shows.
Yeah, I wrote on a lot of award shows, and I never wrote on the Daytime TV Awards, but they're definitely a thing. I mean, Daytime Emmys are a thing. Like, I have a feeling they probably made up that award show for the movie.
Right.
But yeah, there's, I've written on so many. Writing on award shows is awful work. Like, there's no glamour to it at all, because it's like, you every single time, like every time you see two actors say garbage dialogue in an award show, that's because there was a really good idea. Like, there was some like fun sketch that started, and then it had to go through the producers, and then it had to go through the publicists, and then the managers, and then the agents before it ever gets to the actor. And then the actor's like, this isn't funny. Right. What if we did it like this? And then that goes back down this thing to the writers, and then it just keeps going back and forth until the actor finally says like, nah, I just want to stay home that weekend, and then it's done, and then you're doing it all over again. So that's like 6 weeks of work of just like doing that garbage over and over again. It can drive you insane. In fact, the last one I wrote on, I think this is one of 2 times that I quit a job. Just, I loved everybody in the room. I loved the EPs and everything. I just, one day I was like, I'm done, guys. I just like closed my computer. I was like, bye, everybody. I gotta go. I can't do this anymore. That was like 10 years ago, and I just walked away and never went back.
Oh, it's amazing.
Good money though. Yeah.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I have a friend who still does it all the time.
Like, I have a friend that does the Grammys, and I think he did the Emmys too. But he did mention the surreal nature of just the interactions and the things that you witness, like Adele just warming up, and it sounds amazing, and you're just standing there like, what? Why am I in here? Like,
exactly. I saw the greatest one ever, and I think about this all the time. This was the VMAs. I want to say it was like maybe 2009 or something like that. And T-Pain and Lil Wayne had a song that they were performing. And in dress rehearsal, there's always these stand-ins, which are like basically actors on cue to stand in for whatever. And Lil Wayne was there for dress rehearsal, but T-Pain couldn't be there for dress rehearsal. And so I don't know why they chose this guy, but they chose this short, chubby little white guy to be T-Pain's stand-in. And Lil Wayne laughed and was like, all right, let's do the song. And Lil Wayne did the song, and the white guy did T-Pain's part. And they fully performed this. They performed it. And we're all just sitting there screaming. Lil Wayne's laughing his ass off, but doing his lyrics. Little white T-Pain is doing his thing. It was so much fun. I was like, this is a TV show. Yes. This is what should be on the show right now.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But that's, it's like you see crazy stuff like that, and nobody else gets to see it.
pitch a show for you that's just that. So it's like America's Got Talent, but it's just like you take half of a duo out and just put anyone from America in. Just like grandpas
just
with
anyone,
Lil Wayne,
like snatch him off the street.
Exactly. And so did that guy know T-Pain's part, or he's just reading it off a teleprompter? Or?
He was like half reading off a teleprompter, but I mean, it was T-Pain just sang the hook, and I should know what the song is, but T-Pain just sang the hook, so the guy just had to sing the hook. He wasn't a singer. He wasn't good.
Was he auto-tuned?
He wasn't auto-tuned because it was still dress rehearsal. It was just this bad singer and Lil Wayne doing his part.
My gosh.
It was fantastic.
I wouldn't stop thinking about that either. That's incredible.
I think about it all the time. Oh
man. Your job has a lot of strange things involved in it. Fame being one of them. So is it weird for you to like say go to a premiere or?
I'm not famous, so it's not that big of a thing.
Or even being recognized. I mean, did Rect have a premiere or?
Rect had like not really a premiere. Okay. Wolf of Wall Street had a big premiere. That was pretty fun to go to.
So you walked the carpet for that, right?
Yeah. I've walked a number of premieres. It's definitely different. Like I think with Rect we had upfronts, and TV you have upfronts where you have to go, and it's this big whole hullabaloo about selling advertisement. So there was a lot of red carpets and upfronts. Yeah.
Is that like trying to fund the season, or?
It's every network. It honestly goes all the way back to car dealerships, because every network in May, the car dealerships would know what cars were coming out the next year. So the networks would throw this big presentation with a bunch of parties saying, you should advertise on our network. Here's the shows that we're doing. And that just kind of stuck. I mean, this is like a 50-year tradition. And so in May, all the networks, the big cabler or the big networks like Fox, ABC, whatnot, and the cablers do big presentations in New York, where there's they kind of show what their whole slate is for the season, bring out the actors, here's the actors, and kind of do like a big sales presentation, but massive, where you're in a theater where there's 1,000 people and there's red carpets and all that kind of stuff, and then there's huge parties, and every network and every agency has a huge party and stuff like that. So those are pretty surreal experiences, because you are treated like you're royalty there, and everywhere you go you're treated like royalty, and it's weird. I could see why fame can really mess somebody up. Like,
especially after decades and decades of it, like when people are like, Tom Cruise is weird, or whoever they pick, it's like, well, that person hasn't had to make a grilled cheese sandwich in like 40 years. Like, that's all gonna mess with you, even if you are the most well-centered person,
Yeah. I mean, I think for some people, what I've noticed just in my couple decades in this career is, if you achieve some sort of success or fame a little bit later, maybe in your late 30s or what, then you're grounded. You understand who you are. It doesn't necessarily affect you. But I've definitely known a bunch of people who got famous way too early, and it messed them up. And
especially when the next projects don't come, and then it's just like, like I just watched Alex Winter's new documentary, Showbiz Kids. Have you seen that?
No, but I want to see it. He's fantastic.
It's really good. His documentaries, man. I mean, I always enjoyed him as an actor, but wow, he's pretty incredible. And Will Wheaton's in it. He's really fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's on HBO.
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah. All the stars are arriving in the cast, and we see Elizabeth Shue looking from the crowd. We get a clip from All My Trials, which looks fantastic.
Now the oil refineries belong to me. Only me. And another thing. You're all fired.
And then we see Sally Fields in The Sun Also Sets. Brian, what also sets?
Like movie sets?
Oh, that's a good one. I didn't have movie sets. I had TV sets, chess sets, and
Tennis sets?
mindsets. Ooh, good one. Tennis. I just played tennis the other day. I'm terrible
There you
at
go.
it.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
Well done. It's a play on Ernest Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises, is what they were doing with that.
Yeah.
We see her in several scenes. It's very funny.
Bolt, if this operation isn't a success, if I should die.
Because she's playing it straight, which is my favorite type of comedy. It's also something I've seen you do a lot. Even back to the Pete and Brian stuff. The thing that made Knock Knock so funny is the straightforward, dramatic way that you're playing it.
Yeah.
I love that. It's
Thanks.
the funniest thing.
That's the stuff that makes me laugh the most.
Yes, it's just it's wacky stuff and all that is fine, but when someone's just playing it straight and the absurdity of the situation is it just kills me. And I just like, I'm like, I want to see it again. I want to see it again.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, that's something that Pete and I met at NYU in drama school.
Okay.
And the first thing we ever did together was a play like where Pete played a Vietnam vet and I was like his high school friend. Like it was a drama.
Yeah.
And but we were funny guys. And so as we started to talk about working together, it was always, we want to play it straight. We want to be actors in funny, playing dramatic roles in funny situations. And I always think that's what makes me laugh. I mean, my friends tell me, I was on call with a friend today and he was like, "You're the best idiot I've seen on TV." And it's because I'm not playing an idiot. I'm playing a person who just happens to be really dumb. Yeah. And I think playing it straight just makes things really a lot more fun.
Well, and it's like when you're playing someone dumb, like I think in Buffaloed, Sal's not super bright, although he might have some moments. But there's a smart way to play a dumb person. And it's like making those smart choices, which I think is you continually do, whether it's in, moments in like Wrecked, which I just rewatched. So I just was mentioning it. Or in Buffalo, it's like you're watching someone and you're like, whoa, that guy's so dumb. And then when you take a step back, you realize like, whoa, no, these are all choices that the actor's making that could be wildly different. Like you could, I mean, there's some missteps that you could do or just ham it up,
Yes.
Which dumb people don't do because they're unaware that they're dumb.
Exactly. None of the characters I know think they're dumb.
Right.
Or sorry, characters I play think they're dumb. But so it'd be weird if they were playing that way.
Yeah.
I think one of the funniest things is the showrunners of Wrecked, who are amazing dudes. One of the things that they would always have to tell me is they would have to remind me that this is a comedy. Because sometimes I would be like, in the second season of Wrecked, the whole season is about like my dad dying and me finding out all these horrible things. So I'd be like in a scene crying and they'd be like, "That's a good choice, but it's really sad. Can you just like bump it up a little bit?" Like, so.
Well, because you can see it in your eyes is the thing. You look like you're about to cry a number of times, and it's so good. You sell it so well in there. That,
but if I actually did cry, then you'd just be fucking sad.
Yeah. Oh man. And just a little. I was just watching the part where they were about to try to steal the Barracuda's boat and everything, and so two characters are going one way, and you're like, "Okay, got it." And then you go and you just can't get over a palm tree a little bit. It's like just a little bit. It's not a big obstacle for you, but it's just a tiny moment. And there's so many of those tiny moments peppered throughout that show that I don't know Shipley and Shipley's work beyond that, but
that's it.
I'm like, where are they going to do something else? I hope so.
They are. Yeah, they got a lot of stuff coming out. They were just a great story of Hollywood awesomeness.
Yeah.
Justin Shipley was a driver for Josh Radnor when he was shooting a movie in Ohio at his college, and I forget the name of the college that they're shooting. Josh Radnor shot in Indy, directed it, and near the end of that time Justin was like, "Hey, I'm kind of a writer. Can I send you something?" And Josh Radnor was like, "Well, I'm not going to help you with anything, but my very close friend is a manager in LA. Why don't you send it to him? Who is Jesse Hara, who is a producer, became the producer of Wrecked. Jesse read this guy's work and was like, you're really funny. Come to LA. And your brother, and they moved to LA. His brother was working at Trader Joe's when we shot the pilot. Like they were 23 and 24, or 24 and 25. They were young. They had never written anything. They had never done a short film. The pilot, when we were shooting the pilot, that was their first set that they had ever been on. But they're just really smart, incredibly funny dudes.
Yeah.
And they turned it into an incredible working experience. I mean, it was an awesome show to shoot. I could talk about it for years about how awesome it was. We got to live in Puerto Rico for a year and then Fiji for 2. It was amazing, but it was also hard. It was a hard shoot. Fiji is hard living.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we lived on don't get me wrong. We lived on a resort. Like I got to like go have a nice buffet breakfast every morning, but it was like 100-degree weather with 100% humidity. You know, I got scratched by a bush when we were running in one scene, and it was just a scratch, like a normal scratch you get, and it's still, the scar is still there. Like there's something about the Fiji jungle that was intense. Like one of our directors got a staph infection from a cut that he got in the jungle, had to fly back to England for like the English CDC to take care of it. Came back to shoot another episode, got another staph infection.
What?
Like some crazy
double
shit.
staph infection.
Double staph. Yeah, you got double staph.
Were those different seasons or?
That was the same season.
Oh,
that was in the same season. That was the same 3-month chunk.
It's too much staph for one season. We see Kevin Kline backstage at Death of a Salesman watching her win an award, and he's drinking and he's pissed. Sally wins and thanks them, and we see us person by person as they all say that she's terrible and they hope she burns in hell.
There's so many people to thank. First of all, my fabulous supporting cast, who gives a new meaning to the word support.
Bitch.
Hug.
I hate her so much.
Next, she walks into her home and we see her entry has her own photo and she's got her own trophies and pictures of herself. Yeah. She hits play on the answering machine and Adam announces that he's left her.
Celeste, it's Adam. I'm at the airport. Goodbye, my darling. It was beyond great, but I realized I have to go back to Sarah and the kids. It's like a chemical thing. Hey, Putz, I'll be off in a second. I've left you the plants, darling. Please water them and treat them as lovingly as you treated me.
So she gets drunk and poisons all of his houseplants. Adam's voice is Kevin Spacey.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. When you were saying that, I was like, I wonder who did the voice for that.
Yeah, I looked it up because I was like, I'm like obsessed with those weird things. Like growing up I grew up in a video store, and so I was used to just like, you know, going over the boxes and the backs and watching the credits and figuring out who was in what to try to find some, because there was no internet. So it's like the only way you found other weird movies like Tammy and the T-Rex or something was by like, what else has Paul Walker been in? You know, that kind of thing. So, so yeah, Kevin Spacey, there he is again. Another
just
cast
on that note, real quick. My wife hates me because I'm the same way. Obviously, whenever I watch a movie, I'm on IMDb reading everything now.
Yeah.
But I'm also like a stickler for little screw ups.
Yes.
And one is we were watching The Old Guard, the new Netflix movie, which was a $70 million movie. And she was like, "You're insane for noticing this." But at one point, there's a car driving and it brakes and stops. And then the sound of the brakes come, so the car is stopped.
Oh no!
And it goes, beep. And I'm like, how did they miss that? How did they miss? It's a $70 million movie. How did no one watch that and be like, oh, that's, you know, half a second too late, you know, 30 frames too late. Like, it drives me nuts. Like, and it's because I grew up inside movies, and when you take me out of a movie, I'm like, now we have a beef, man. Now I'm after you.
Why? Yeah, I just was recording an episode about Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Oh, cool.
And
good movie.
Yeah, it's great. And there's something that felt weird when I watched it, you know, in the 90s. I couldn't figure out what it was. And the thing was there's a part where the bus gets vandalized and then they paint over that side of the bus, they paint it pink. but then the other half of the movie, the bus is a different color, and they couldn't afford to keep, because you shoot things out of sequence. So
Yeah.
one side of the bus is painted one color, one side of the bus is painted the other color. And when they're filming the bus going in different times, they have to flip the film.
Wow. Yeah.
And so
Oh my
like
God.
it's not like you'll probably get it. Most people
Yeah.
wouldn't even notice it, but you start to be like, why is it
Yeah.
this side of the bus?
Yeah.
It's very strange,
Yeah.
but
Nope. I get it.
yeah.
That's an interesting fact. I didn't know that about that.
It's weird. Another cast in the film wants her gone,
Then get rid of her.
You think that's easy?
Give her Alzheimer's.
Right.
which is an interesting part.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a cast, you don't control what they do with you, right? Like when
Zero.
you sign on for something like Wrecked, you don't know how many seasons it'll go. You don't know what
Nope.
your character's arc will be. Do you have like a contract that says like, Brian doesn't do nudity below the waist, or is there anything like that? Or are you just up for everything?
No, there's the contract. The initial contract will usually stipulate years, like it's usually 6 years, something like that. How long you're attached to the show. For nudity, that'll be an additional clause. It's called a nudity clause.
Sure.
And a great example of that is when I booked Wolf of Wall Street. I was just married, and I thought it would just be a fun movie. And then the nudity clause came through, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to show my wang in this movie. Like, what's going on?" And I like asked my lawyer, like, "Can we define what the nudity will be?" And he's like, "Nope, they're not defining it. You can either sign it or not." And so we had to sign it to do the movie. I did not have to show anything.
Yeah, I watched
but
it last
did get-
night. Couldn't find your wang anywhere in there.
It's not in the movie. It's not anywhere in the movie. Man, that's well. There's a line that you're coming to that I wanna. I have a Wolf of Wall Street story.
It's gonna be crazy because I think I have a note about Wolf of Wall Street at that line.
Okay.
So we get the idea that Robert and Kathy Moriarty's characters are hooking up or going to.
You think I don't like that? I want her off the show worse than you do. You know why? Then it's my show.
Our show. A young
A
show.
happening show.
Like Laguna Beach.
Better than Laguna Beach. Hotter.
Wetter.
Sandier.
Saltier.
And he asks why they're not having sex, and she says something about Mr. Fuzzy. Is this the line?
No,
Oh.
but now I have no idea.
Get rid of her. Mr. Fuzzy is yours.
It's so weird that she says
Weird.
she says like, I'll introduce you to Mr. Fuzzy. I saw this movie in the theaters. I was a teenager, and I don't know what that line is about. Like,
I don't think there's a lot of with that whole storyline
Yes.
is troubled.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
troubled. Like, oh man, like yeah, exactly. It's talking about Mr. Fuzzy. There's so many questions with that. So, I love
Like-
Kathy Moriarty, but woof.
Well, I mean, I just wonder if there was a different line or something, or if she was just like, it's not working. Can we go with Mr. Fuzzy? And they're like, what?
Yeah, they're like, it's been a long day. Just let her say one. Just let her say
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
It's PG-13. What are the kids saying? They're saying Mr. Fuzzy.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Yeah. Fuzzy
Well,
was my teddy bear's name, to be honest.
Oh,
That was
no.
my teddy bear as a child. Yeah. So, I guess
so when you were
Soapdish
watching
ruined
it, I just watched you like pan over really quickly, just pan over to the teddy bear that's sitting there smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I know Kathy. We're good friends. We're all friends.
I should mention that your videos on your Instagram lately are hilarious. And I love, as a
Thanks.
dad, to see the ones that you're writing with your daughter.
Yes. Oh man, she's a champion. She is because she comes up with a lot of these videos,
It's
and
so
then it's
good.
like we're gonna do this together. She has for a long time, and I'm impressed. Part of that comes from a line that's also in this movie where Celeste says to Elizabeth Shue, "You can't be an actor." Like, you know,
Oh, yeah.
the whole speech where she's like, "You can't do this."
Yeah.
Because my daughter, she was 2 when she first said, "Dad, I'm going to be an actor like you."
Oh.
And I was like, no. So instead, I've been pushing her towards writing and directing.
There you go.
And so she does a lot of like fun writing little bits. She's a great storyteller. And so, especially at the beginning of when everyone was self-isolating, we were making some good videos
Yeah.
together. We were having fun. now I'm just too tired.
Yeah. I get it. Speaking of awkward situations, you were in Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes.
Which is a film that had airplane orgy, and why that's not the title of the film, I'll never
Well,
understand.
so that's what I was going to talk about.
Okay,
the
good.
line that made me think of it is there's a kiss between Sally Field and her husband on Soapdish. And when they finish, she says, "Can you wear a swimsuit? She says, it's too early in the morning for something like that. It's too early in the morning to not have a swimsuit." And I always tell people, like, I've had a number of very, lascivious acts that I've done in movies, the airplane orgy being the largest of those.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, "Wasn't that the coolest thing you've ever done?" And then I say, okay, let's take a step back. You get to set at like 5:30 in the morning, like everyone feels like garbage. You basically like chug a coffee and eat a breakfast burrito from Crafty. And then the first thing you're doing is getting completely naked with 60 other people in a trapped tube with a bunch of hot lights. Within like 30 minutes, it smells like holy hell in there.
Yeah.
And all you want to do is leave. Like, there's nothing glorious about being in this situation. Sure, there's a lot of beautiful people and it's cool, but it smells so bad that I couldn't wait. I have a picture of myself near the end of that day, and I look like I just fought in a war. Like I have this 1,000-yard stare, just done. Yeah,
scene.
It was cool. It was an amazing scene.
Yeah.
But holy cow, did that crush me.
Also a part in that movie where you're carrying a woman around the office where she's in tassels, I think, and then you tackle each other, kind of.
Yeah. Oh, I got a great story about this one. This is a fun one. Okay. So that woman was in the airplane orgy scene as well. And she got something happened to her toe, or like her toenail got ripped off. It was a whole thing. Everyone was very sad for her. Side note, the day we shot that airplane orgy scene was Martin Scorsese's 70th birthday. So when we wrapped that scene, we all had to sing happy birthday to him. It was bizarre. It was bizarre. So this girl got hurt, and they said, "You should come back for another day." And then after that scene, we started shooting in the office, that office where you saw it. That was the scene where we're celebrating, and there's a naked trombone band, like jazz band.
Oh yeah.
What do you call it? Marching band going through the office. And then Leo said something like, "Bring out the strippies." And out of one door comes 12 brunettes, and out of the other door comes 12 blondes. And so they do it. And then Scorsese comes over to our crew, and he's like, "I just think the scene needs a little bit more spice. You guys just go in there and spice it up." We're like, "Sure, yeah." That was kind of like our job. We were always there, and he'd be like, "Oh, just like do some stuff." So he says that, and we run in, and I'm running into the scene, and I see that girl who got her foot hurt, and I say, "You jump on me." So she jumps on me, and I'm holding her, and
This is just in the moment.
This is in the moment, and we're running around, and then Ethan Suplee is like, "Oh, I'm gonna get in on this, like, because we're having fun." And he grabs her arms, and we start playing tug of war with this girl. And so we break off, and when we break off, I fall on to the ground, and we're in a spot where there aren't a lot of people, so you can see it on camera. And then she whips off my belt and starts smacking me with it. And Leo sees this and just starts cracking up. Whoa. And so they yell cut. Scorsese comes out and goes, "Brian, that's perfect. We're going to shoot that. Let's go." And so we do it again, and we do it a few more times. And this woman and I are wrestling, and she keeps smacking me with her belt, and then Leo's spanking me. And this is all like pure improvisation, having fun. And it was a blast. And we go home for the day, and I come back the next day, and Scorsese and Leo are talking. Scorsese's like, "Brian, thank you so much. What you did yesterday was so fucked up. It saved us an orgy. So we're going to cut a different orgy for that." Saved us money. Saved us an orgy. I was like, "You're welcome." It was funny.
So if you saw him again, you'd just be like, "Hey, I'm Brian. Remember I saved you an orgy?"
Saved you an orgy. What's amazing about him, he is, when you're talking about like growing up in a video store,
Yes.
he is a cinephile through and through. He knows
Oh, yeah.
every movie, has seen it 1,000 times. So especially with his own movies, like I have bizarrely seen him a couple times since then, usually in conjunction with Wolf, and he knows who I am only as my character. He sees me, he's like, Robbie Feinberg, how you doing? And it's like, good, thanks. I'm doing well, thank you.
That's so crazy.
But like another story on that, on Wolf, Rob Reiner was there for a few days.
Oh my gosh.
He was dead.
No, the scene where Rob came into the office and he and Leo, and you're in the office. All I kept thinking was like, Brian's right there. Like he's right there. And Rob Reiner. Yeah. I mean, they're both just on fire. And to be in a room like that, like I can't imagine.
Oh, it was so much fun. I don't think it's in the movie, but we got it, like we interjected a lot. I think PJ's in the scene with me. PJ, and we interjected and Rob would scream at us and it was so funny. And it was great. Where I even said to Rob, I was like, hey man, if you're feeling it, you can smack me across the face. And he was like, I don't strike other people, sir. Like it's lovely.
That's so
he was
Rob
the nicest
Reiner.
Dude. Yeah, it was so Rob Reiner.
Oh, man.
But when the first day he was on set, we were chatting, and he said, you know, Scorsese and I have been friends for a long time, and we kind of, you know, came up and doing movies together. And he was like, the only thing that frustrated me about Martin was whenever we would play the movie game, he would just crush us all.
People, yeah,
he just destroys. He was like, it was never fun to play with him.
Oh
so,
yeah,
it was great. Yeah,
I bet.
That's a cut.
Next time, could you wear a swimsuit underneath the towel? It's a little early in the day for me.
I can't act in a swimsuit.
I know.
Celeste, pumpkin, were you celebrating last night? Your eyes, they look a little reddish.
We heard about Adam. It's so sad. Breaking families apart is such a tragedy.
Anything you need, you just call. Anytime, day or night.
I really don't deserve friends like you. I'm just too lucky.
Sally's a complete beast on the set, and we see Kathy Najimy is in the movie, and she's the costume designer, notable from Hocus Pocus and Sister Act, and also Balto 3, Wings of Change. We see Carrie Fisher's running a dubious interview with a man, and then a hallway full of people waiting to audition, and they're all saying,
Will you be having wine with dinner? Will you be having wine with your dinner? Will you be having wine with your dinner? Wine with your dinner?
Yes. Man.
Do you audition for things? Is this a reality for you?
Yeah, I did for a long time.
Yeah.
And I didn't stop out of like not of a necessity. I stopped because 99% of the things that I've booked are because I know somebody involved.
Yeah.
Like Wolf of Wall Street is the one movie I booked off of just a straight up audition on a tape. Everything else, even Wrecked, I knew that producer Jesse Hara, my manager, was friends with him. I did a table read of it, a green light table read, and the execs were like, "This is it. This is our guy."
Perfect.
So most of the stuff I've done, you know, like even Hard Luck Love Song, what you were talking about, Justin, the director, had seen me in something and was like, "Oh, we have mutual friends. I like this guy," and we had to sit down. He was like, "You're fun. Let's just have fun together." So that's, I've stopped auditioning, but I hate auditioning. It's the worst thing in the world. Like seeing that waiting room where they're all repeating the same lines. That's what it's like. And there's so much razzing in auditions, like waiting rooms, because it's a lot of the times you're in there and it's 10 other people that are just slightly different versions of you.
Yeah, it's so weird.
It's so weird. And so because I don't really care about that stuff, the times I do have auditions, I just immediately try to, you know, break the ice in that room and create conversations with people and make friends, because it's such a tense, awkward situation.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. Testing is another thing. When you book, you know, testing is mostly for TV shows.
Yes.
And you go through an audition process where you audition for the casting director and you're put on tape, and then if producers like you have a producer session, and then if they like you after that, then you test, and you're in front of 40 people who won't laugh at what you're doing, or maybe they'll laugh. It's an incredibly just tense, horrible situation. So I'd rather write movies that I can star in than
There you
go
go.
through that shit
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
Previous season for actor, I had Sarah Burns on the podcast.
Oh gosh, she's amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And she was the first person I heard talk about that process of the testing, because I had never. Yeah. I did a lot of improv and theater and some little short film stuff, and then when my kind of comedic partner went off to do his thing, I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And I was like, well, I'll just do auditions. I was doing some voiceover work. And so I went, I think it was 2 auditions before I was like, this is not the avenue for me at all.
It's awful. It's awful.
I went to one, I didn't know they were casting multiple parts at that time.
Yeah.
And I went, and there was a guy just super shredded, just like walking shirtless out of the audition. I was like, well, I'm not getting this one. But then it turns out there was a different thing.
Different part.
Yeah. But it was, I was sweating the whole time, because I'm like, when they say take your shirt off, what am I gonna do?
Yeah, I've been there before. I've been there.
It was not great.
I'm Lori Craven, and I'm an actress.
An actress? Really? How nice for you. I'm Betsy Faye Sharon, and I'm a bitch. Now get out of here.
Miss Sharon, we've got to get on this show. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm just asking for a chance.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Shue dashes into the office to get the job, and she does. She's hired as a good-looking homeless person.
Real quick, just when we're going to point out discrepancies in movies.
Yes.
Why am I forgetting her name? The casting director in the movie, Carrie Fisher.
Oh,
Carrie
yeah,
Fisher is casting for a role as the waiter, which we actually don't see until the end of the movie.
Yes.
For a scene that hasn't been written yet.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
When they finally show the waiter, I was like, oh, weird callback to something that like would have anyone
from
finished
like
the film
months ago.
Yeah, finished the film and be like, but did he get the part? I mean, we don't.
I mean, I appreciated his performance because he was awful, and that was awesome that he was so bad. But yes, it definitely was. It was a bizarre callback.
Again, probably a great actor playing the audition horribly, which I love that. Whoopi arrives and sees Sally cutting up clothes. Sally confesses that Alan has left her for his wife, that's funny.
Have you gone insane? Do you know the word on the floor is that like you're crazed today? What's in your mouth?
A cigarette.
I know it's a cigarette. Why is it in your mouth? You don't smoke.
I do now.
Okay. Are you okay?
Yes.
You're fine.
Fine.
Rose? Adam went home to his wife.
Really? Oh.
When I got home last night, there was a message on the machine. On the machine, Rose. On the machine.
He's a dog.
Oh, he went home to Pittsburgh.
Dirty dog.
Pittsburgh.
They go to lunch in one of my favorite scenes where Whoopi Goldberg is staring at Sally Field's salad that has 3 crawdads on it.
You're not gonna eat that, are you?
No,
Then what'd you order it for?
I don't know.
And cover it up.
I like them.
I'm looking at crawdad butts. Cover them up.
Which is like probably the most Whoopi moment we get in the movie, which like at this point in her career, I was aware of like Burglar and Jumping Jack Flash and all these like, more like edgy Whoopi roles. And so to see this family friendly, I wasn't quite sold on it. So Crawdad Butts really did it for me for a while. Whoopi says we can write you into a coma and you could take a 6-month break, which we're kind of getting this behind the scenes of the soap opera that they can just write in breaks for the actors just by putting them in a coma. Whoopi's the head writer of the show, and I know you've written for MTV, the Emmys, People Choice Awards, Single Dads, and Buffaloed, which is a motion picture. For you as a writer, how do you approach those different projects? Because they're all different beasts in a way.
Very different beasts. Yeah. Obviously the award shows I spoke about. with Single Dads and also Fact Checkers Unit, which we wrote. Those were Pete and Brian series, and so we were just kind of writing funny bits that we thought would work.
Right.
Fact Checkers was a little different because there was a lot of celebrities involved in that. Bill Murray, James Franco, and a number of things. T-Pain, to reference
the real one.
The real T-Pain, not the
Couldn't get the other guy.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of that was just kind of short form fun stuff. I think it was after I shot Wolf of Wall Street, because on Wolf, Scorsese was very professorial in how he would talk about why we're shooting the way we were. He was really generous with explanations about what he was doing. So after that, I kind of decided to go more into longer form content, to start writing movies. Buffalo, the first one I wrote, and luckily it got made. And then the next two I wrote are also on their way. But right now, who knows what's ever going to happen.
Buffalo 2 and Buffalo 3.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the follow-ups. Nothing
Buffalo.
like taking a really small indie movie and then doing a bunch of sequels.
Yes. But you don't see those indie sequels anymore.
So yeah, I mean, what I would say is what I had to find after doing short form content, especially doing short form content with a partner for so long, was find like my voice, like what am I good at, and what do I enjoy writing, and what do I enjoy seeing on the screen. And so I wrote a couple like short pilots that I think were really just me kind of working things out, figuring out who I was, and then getting into Buffalo. And what I found that I both enjoy watching and writing is in reference to kind of what we were saying before. I like to have a very strong dramatic narrative. Where it's grounded in something very real for the protagonist, for the main character, but then surrounded by quirk and humor, like a lot of weird characters, a lot of weird just little tidbits that really build a world. So that's kind of what I've found in myself as a writer.
Nice. Yeah, I think when I was watching Buffalo, I was really paying attention to the structure of it, because you wrote it and I was going to be talking to you, and it has a really, really satisfying structure.
Right.
So yeah, I get that.
I mean, it's like simple, keeping that simple. Like the narrative arc is pretty basic. We know what makes a good narrative arc in a movie.
Yeah.
But then finding a lot of ways beyond that to make it interesting and different.
Mm-hmm. And surprising moments like breaking the fourth wall and things like that, where you're not ever sitting there. I was never like, yeah, we know where this is going, or it's nice to have those surprises in there.
That's my hope. Cool.
They go to the mall, and Whoopi pretends to recognize Sally, so she creates a frenzy of people who want her autograph.
Oh, look! Oh, aren't you on that TV show? Oh, look at that on the TV show! Oh, look at that! Oh, you look so small.
Just really something.
Think about that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Do people ask you for your John Wilkes Booth? Is that the saying?
I don't think that's a thing anymore.
Okay.
But people ask for pictures a lot.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing, I guess.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love that? Just random. Hey, can I take your picture right now? And you're like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's somewhere on the internet. I was at a grocery store in the small mountain town I'm at. This was like a year ago, and this very nice couple. I was literally like leaning on a grocery cart with my daughter sitting in it. And they were like, Brian Sacca? And when someone says Brian Sacca, I think like, oh, did we go to high school together? And they're like, Brian Sacca. And they're like, can we get a picture? And I was like, sure. And I literally was like, I'm leaning on like a shopping cart like this, and they just leaned in.
Oh, great.
So it's like my daughter's probably leg is in the picture. It's just like somewhere there's a very weird picture.
That's amazing.
They're a lovely couple. So
yeah. You mentioned FCU, Fact Checkers Unit, and you did that with Bill Murray. What is it like to be in a room with Bill Murray?
Oh my God.
Because you've worked with actors, big actor. I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio, directors like Martin Scorsese, and And I've talked to a number of people that are like, they're just jobs, just people that are doing these jobs.
Yeah.
But there's something to these mythical creatures like Bill Murray, where I can't even imagine being in a room with him and not talking about Bill Murray.
Oh my God, he lived up to his legendary status.
Yeah.
Tenfold. Like, so I'll just go back to the beginning where you can't, like, there's no agent to reach out to Bill Murray to get him stuff. There's a fax machine and a 1-800 number, and you fax him a script and then you leave a message on the 1-800 number. He also has a lawyer, so you can try to go through the lawyer. And then you just kind of hope for the best. And with Bill, the guy we wrote Fact Checkers with, this guy Dan Beers, was also going to direct it, and he had worked with Wes Anderson for a while, so he knew Bill from some Wes Anderson's movies. So we sent him the stuff, didn't hear anything, and then about a month later, Dan sees Bill at a party, and they have a nice conversation, and at the end of the conversation, Dan's thinking to himself, like, do I say something or do I not? And he doesn't say something, and Bill goes to leave, and then he just turns back and looks at Dan and goes, "Fact Checkers, huh? Okay, I'll do it." And then that's it. So we set it up, but here's the thing: that doesn't mean he's gonna show up. Like,
yeah.
You know, there's the famous story of when Sofia Coppola was shooting Lost in Translation. They're shooting the whole thing in Japan. They didn't even know if he was gonna be there, if he was even in Japan, and they were like ready to shoot. So we had all these contingency plans of like what we were going to do if Bill didn't show up on the day. We scheduled it on a day where we knew it was his son's birthday, and his son was having a birthday party. His son was in his 20s, I believe. He's having a birthday party in the East Village. So our location we were shooting was in the East Village on that day the birthday party was. And then we just kind of hoped he would show up. And, you know, I think it was
so that's not his real house.
That's not his real house. That was just, that was like an apartment we rented on Broadway in New York City.
I was like, he's got an interesting taste.
No, that was just some random apartment. And one thing we did do is we filled the apartment with a bunch of art that we had made of Bill Murray.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then, but that was one thing he was like, I think that might be too on the nose, because we also gave him a t-shirt that had his own face on it. And he was like, that's too on the nose. But he did show up with, he was like, my friend John gave me this. And it was a Blues Brothers t-shirt that John Belushi had given. He's like, should I wear this? And we were like, oh, yes, please.
Wow.
So, but on set, what I always say is he was the funniest human being alive who also happens to be your grumpy grandfather.
Yeah.
Because like there was a point where Pete, my partner, we were working through dinner because we wanted to make sure we got as much time with Bill as we could.
Yeah.
And Union said we had to take a dinner break. So we're working through, so we're sitting on this couch. Pete is shoving some spaghetti into his mouth, and he puts the plate right next to the couch. And Bill goes, "Oh, this is your apartment?" And Pete's like, "What? No, it's not. We rented this." And he goes, "Then clean up after yourself." And it was like one of those things where it was like, oh God. And like, you know, Pete runs and puts his plate in the trash. And it was just like stuff like that where Bill was the funniest guy. And like, you know, I made some joke at one point and he just looked at me and goes, "You're an only child, aren't you?" Like things like that. Like he was funny and great and special, but also like, don't mess with Bill Murray.
Yeah. Oh man.
My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, was there because why not be there?
Yeah, exactly.
And she's sitting in the hallway and Bill just walks over to her and pokes her and goes, "There you are." And then just walks
There
away.
it is.
There it is.
That's the Bill Murray moment.
So yeah,
oh
exactly.
Gosh. Well, that's incredible.
Renting cars to people, that's acting.
You know, that's how I feel, that I'm performing.
Yeah, the motivation's built in.
You could tell I had talent just by watching me lease a car.
It's that obvious. My God, you have beautiful hands. Hands say so much about a person, I think.
Next, we see Kevin Kline, and he's being smooth with a lady talking about her hands, which we get to see him do again. We get another conversation between Robert and Moriarty about how they get Sally off of the show.
Make Maggie a murderess.
Oh, a death.
Yes, it'll turn the country against her.
It can't be one of the regulars.
Not even Bolt?
No, Bolt. Bolt's gold, especially with the whole impotence thing coming up. Maybe one of the extras, or
One
I don't
of the
know.
extras. One of the homeless, David. One of the homeless.
That's cruel.
Oh, it's very cruel.
Next, we see Ben Stein in the writing room saying,
Ariel should be raped by Father Corey.
So dark.
wow.
Yeah.
It's like out of nowhere.
Yeah, just like boom, Ben Stein.
Yeah.
Where? Like,
Wow.
holy cow.
Yeah, the writing room is madness and very problematic these days.
Yes, exactly. Oh God.
Gary Marshall comes in and says, when ratings go down, we do something drastic. So Robert pitches that Sally Field will murder the homeless person, and they pick Elizabeth Shue to be murdered. They travel down the hall, and Robert decides to make her deaf and mute so they don't have to pay her as much.
Right. That's very true. That's a real thing.
That's a real thing.
That's a very real thing.
Okay.
Extras, a great. I'll tell a quick great Rex story. Second season, we were just beginning to shoot in Fiji, and to match the extras we had in the first season from Puerto Rico, they basically went around Fiji and just tried to find tourists who could look like the people we had in Puerto Rico, and so one of the tourists, I think we called him Smiley, because he on our first day shooting, there was like a really intense scene. It's where the Barracuda first shows up and things explode. He's just smiling the whole time, and we're like, no, buddy, like this is like life or death. Like we're all terrified.
So happy.
And then when we started improvising lines, he started improvising lines too, and we were like, buddy, you can't talk. Like when you talk, now you're like, it's a whole different class of things. Now there's a union involved. And all of this stuff. So yeah, it's a big thing. Like you can't talk on if you're an extra. Like it bumps the pay up significantly.
Okay, so when the soup lady arrives, something inside of you snaps. Something mental.
A crack-up.
Exactly. It's all gotten to you. The grinding poverty, the deprivation, the peeing in the streets. So you reach into your bag and you grab the knife.
The DP, I think, is walking her through the scene, and they try to get Whoopi off the stage because she's the head writer, I guess, and has to oversee the writing that's happening. Sally wises up, but Whoopi's not there. And then a strange scene ensues where Robert has a headache and Sally rubs his back. It's very uncomfortable.
It really is. It really is.
I'm trying to shield you from it because I love you and that's my job, but this time he laid down the law, but we're not going to do it.
In the attack, we learn Elizabeth Shue is Laurie's niece.
Laurie? Aunt Celeste.
And then as they're walking, she tries to talk her out of acting like you talked about earlier.
I can't shake it. It's all I ever think about.
Does Grandma know you're here?
Yes, I told her yesterday.
You're too young to be in this city by
you
yourself.
were 16 when you came to New York.
You see me as a role model? You want to end up like me? I need a cab!
Robert and Moriarty conspire more to bring back a character that she hated, and it's Kevin Kline, and he's in hell.
Good morning. I said, you got a fine city here, Mayor. And then,
You're doing so well up there.
I had a cup of coffee.
Performing in a neon club for old people. It's the worst thing ever.
The death of a sale. I've never done dinner theater, but I've done some theater like that where I have to like yell my lines louder because the old people can't hear, stuff like that. Yeah.
There's actually on YouTube a Pete and Brian live show, the first 6 minutes
Oh,
of
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal because it ended up being in a sketch, or was that taken?
That that was what we first did together. It was called Pete and Brian's One Man Show.
Okay, because that got turned into the bar sketch.
It turned into two guys who spend too much time together.
Yeah, which is fantastic. And
thank you.
Just all the little nuances that you both had to memorize and the timing. It's just it's pretty amazing.
That was a fun one.
And just so people know, Pete isn't dead. He has a different profession because we're talking about him in the past.
Yeah, Pete and Brian became a psychologist. I'm very proud of him for doing so. But in switching professions, we had to take some of our more controversial pieces offline.
Yeah, so it's not there.
Fine. Yeah.
Do you guys ever laugh because if someone ever says to him, "I've been kind of thinking about killing myself lately"?
Oh man, I'm gonna like find one of his clients and pay him $20 to say that. See what happens.
Just to watch him like twitch, like trying not to say who.
You fucking with me?
Yeah. Oh man, this film had extensive reshoots, and it forced Kevin Kline to withdraw from the film Hook, where he was cast originally and replaced by Robin Williams.
Wow.
That's a crazy fact.
That's some trivia right there.
Burt Reynolds also turned down the role for this film because Lonnie Anderson said Hollywood would laugh at him because he and Sally Fields had previously dated.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So he said no to Soapdish. Totally different movie.
Yeah, that would have been not a very good movie.
Like,
Kevin Kline really elevates this movie in an awesome way. Oh man.
I mean, seeing Burt Reynolds in a tiny little dinner theater, you don't buy that at all.
You don't buy it. And I'm sure that scene would have been cut out of the movie because he would have been like, I don't do that. I'm not going to do that.
I don't do that. No.
I'm not going to.
Celeste and I, we were just kids. But, excuse me, still, we had something. There was a fire, passion. No. She wanted to be a big star. Nothing else mattered. Love, nothing.
Robert says he's super excited to bring back this dead character. She says that she cut him from the show 20 years ago. Robert gets Kevin Kline wasted and decides to ruin Sally's career. He gets a makeover and a lady hit on... I don't know what that part's about, so let's cut that out. Whoopi flips out as the writer, and then Sally flips out as Celeste. And then she sees Kevin and she faints, which is a dramatic scene on stage. We see it all play out. It's really something. Something else that's something is our sponsor. We'll be right back after this. Are you tired of boring food and condiments made of processed ingredients? Then you need Marshall's Hot Sauce. Each small batch is made by Sarah Marshall, who sources from local farmers. Her dedication to knowing the sources carries on through right down to knowing the single origin beekeeper and even the harvester of the sea salt. Each sauce is plant-based, gluten-free, and packed with deliciousness. Annual offerings from mild to spicy being smoked habanero barbecue, red chili lime, serrano ginger lemongrass, and habanero carrot curry. Not to mention a rotating offering of limited edition sauces like Whiskey Smoked Ghost, Caramelized Scorpion Ghost, Volcano Sparkle, and even a collaboration with the heatonist Bird's Eye Charred Chive Dulce. There's always something new and delicious. Just head on over to marshallshotsauce.com. That's Marshall's HAUTESAUCE.com. When checking out, enter VHUS in promo code for 20% off. That's VHUS at checkout for 20% off. And now, back to the show. We're back. Kevin and Sally kiss, and he messes up the line, so they have to keep re-kissing, and then she knees him in the groin.
Oh!
So that's got to happen. And then Elizabeth Shue goes to see Kevin.
All the time I was obsessed with my hands. You know, I made them feel like salesmen's hands.
Really?
Yes, you know.
You mean manicured or clumsy?
Exactly. Hands that had written out all of those invoices.
He says, watch out. The hands say so much about a person, so with more hand talking with Kevin Kline.
Hand talk.
Which means Jeff Goldblum would have been great for maybe the Kevin Kline role. He was a bit young at the time, but he's a hand actor.
He is a hand actor. And maybe it was inspired by a little Quentin Tarantino feet action.
Oh, could have been. Yeah, although I don't know where he was around Soapdish.
I mean,
91.
in 91, I don't think he had
Three Reservoir Dogs, right?
I think he was working at a VHS store at the time.
Oh yeah, so maybe the writers came in to rent a video, and he's like, "How about something about feet?" And they're like, That would be great because he's a cinephile too. If he just strictly talked about the shots that involve feet in movies, that would be amazing. Yeah. You watch There's a Kill Bill cut that's just feet.
Just feet. Yeah. Oh my god, I love the opening to Saturday Night Fever. You ever seen that? I like to watch it a lot.
I would like to watch it. I have it just on loop at my house on 16 millimeter. We get more Kevin and Shu stuff. Sally finds out that Kevin Klein is going to take Elizabeth Shue out to dinner, and she is not pleased with it at all.
Okay. Oh, God. Oh, God.
What is the matter?
Oh, God.
What's the matter? What do you mean, what's the matter? They went to dinner, so?
He's not entitled to go to dinner with her. God.
She goes out wearing the turban, and she tries to trick the doorman. This part must have drove you crazy because it bothered me. The doorman says he lives in 2A, but when she goes to the door, it's 2D.
It's 2D. Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah. How did they miss that? How did Scripty miss that mess up?
It makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah. I'm like, oh, she's going to go in this room, like Pink Panther style to a different apartment or something. But no, it's his.
It's just his there. It doesn't make any sense.
So angry about it still. My wife's been like, what's wrong? And I'm like, it's 2D. I don't understand.
How did that even happen?
She's like, it's God. Soapdish still? Yeah. Maybe I'll go talk to Pete. Maybe he can help me out with the.
Yeah. He'll definitely help you out. Yeah.
Every problem that you have, it's not 2A or 2D. It's just a 2. And I'll be like, all right.
It's just a 2.
All right, I get it. She almost falls to her death in this scene. They argue, and he says, she says,
You're exactly the same, even for an actor. You're an egomaniac.
Of course I'm an egomaniac. I've got America's sweetheart climbing up my drain pipe.
Wow.
That's a harsh blow.
Yes. Then they angry kiss, which I don't think I've seen in a film before. It's very strange.
that was like very 1950s kiss, where it was like, like what are you guys covering right now? Like, there's some real rage in both of you. I mean, they are both boomers, but there's some real rage going on there.
The next thing is that we find out that she isn't the niece of these two characters, that they're actually her parents, which means this is a remake of the movie Old Boy, or Old Boy is a remake of Soapdish. But for the most of this picture, they forced us to watch her dad Mac on her.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, that's one thing I wrote right here is, why incest? Why did they have to go there?
Of all the soap things you could do, they decided to go with that after we've watched them go on dates, basically.
Yeah. Like they were so close to hooking up.
Yeah. It's really.
Yeah.
Then Sally's on fire. She ruins 3 people's lives.
This is ridiculous. I can kiss who I want.
No! You can't! You can't kiss her!
Why? Because she's your niece?
No, you nitwit! Because she's my daughter! And your daughter! What?
What are you talking about?
We're her parents! You and I! We're her mommy and her daddy.
And then the writing room is on fire. Gary Marshall comes down. It backfires because everybody loves this big twist that's happening.
Yep. Situation under control, and she will be fired by the end of the day.
Fired? Who said fired?
He said.
We can no longer tolerate this kind of behavior.
Tolerate!
Could you tolerate the $1 billion of free press we're going to get because of what happened down there today? The phone's been ringing off the hook. We're going to be on the evening news. The tabloids are going to say, real-life soap opera. Celeste is a bad news buffet. The people love her because she is and always will be the queen of misery.
But no. She's turned unstable, and we can't.
Unstable? I'm stable. Who wants to watch me on television? Unstable is her talent.
Sally is sad. Everyone drinks straight vodka in this movie for some reason. That's not a thing people
all
do.
Stolen Nacha too. Like,
yes.
Did Stolen Nacha pay for this movie? Because there's just bottles of it everywhere.
I think so. I think that's that and Pepsi are the two things that people drink, but not together.
No, but they talk about Pepsi all the time.
So much. Yeah. Do you drink, and is your drink a grasshopper?
No, why do you think so?
It's just the most ridiculous drink, and I just love to mention it whenever possible. Like whenever we go to people's houses pre-pandemic, people go, "Oh, can I get you something to drink?" And I'll have a grasshopper, and just watch people be like, "What? What did you
That's
say?"
really great. That's a great
It's
joke. Yeah.
just 3/4 an ounce green creme de menthe, 3/4 an ounce white cream de cocoa, 3/4 an ounce light cream. You know, just if you have it. Just people are like, I have a Coors.
Not heavy cream, light cream. Let's just make sure it's light cream.
Or a single cream if we're in the UK. Those are the two different. That's
really fun.
Sorry, where'd you smell?
Sally and Elizabeth get paparazzi'd, and the old lady has an autograph book, and I was like, what is this? Like, she has a book like my daughter would have.
Yeah.
I just couldn't even figure out what was happening there. Sally tries to make it better, but she's an old monologue and gets caught by Elizabeth's shoe. Elizabeth enters in, and Robert and Moriarty are arguing. She asks them to leave because now she's the egotistical Sally Fields character.
Look, I don't care what Tawny Miller says. This hat makes me look like that goddamn Tweety bird. Do you mind?
You're asking me to leave?
That's right. I'm asking you to leave.
David.
Miss Moorhead, may Miss Craven and I have a moment alone, please?
We see the ego grow. We get Sally and Kevin attempt to play the role as parents, but they're both acting, and it just isn't really working out so well.
It was important for me to come forward. Important as an actress, as a woman, and as a personality.
A tabloid says that Moriarty is pregnant by Kevin Kline, and all hell breaks loose. This part of the film, like, so much happens so rapidly.
So much happens.
Yeah. John Tesh appears. So you get that.
It was the 90s. They're like, it's the 90s, guys. John Tesh has to be involved somehow.
Yes.
Now, the real-life soap opera that has been The Sun Also Sets will come to a unique climax as today's live broadcast reveals whether Celeste Talbert, Laurie Craven, or Jeffrey Anderson will remain on the show.
The guy that Carrie Fisher had sex with is there, and he says, "Will you be having wine?" So we get that moment. And then everything is playing out in the film live. So the actors have no idea who's going to be written off.
Okay, no, I think you need this.
No!
Would you try?
You're right, listen, you're on! Go! Go, go!
Kevin Kline refuses to wear glasses in one of the funniest scenes, I think, where he can't read the teleprompter.
I've used that scene before as an example when I talk about upstaging, because when you know, in theater school, they always talk about upstaging, and the idea is the focus should be centered on somebody at all time. Make it easy for the audience. And they did a brilliant thing in that scene where Kevin Kline is upstaged by the tassel on his head.
The
and
tassel
it's like
work.
the smallest thing can upstage, and it was brilliant. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
I remember, I don't remember who the actors were involved, but an old teacher of mine told a story of he was in a play and two actors were fighting with each other off stage, and so one of the actors to upstage the other actor before their big monologue, when they were leaving the stage, they had a cup of coffee and they put it on the edge of a table so it looked like it was going to fall off. So the audience was just staring at that cup of coffee the whole time while this like monologue, nobody could give a fuck. And that's what I thought about with the tassel on his head. It's like, it was a brilliant moment of unaware upstaging happening.
Well, and every time it cuts to him, it's like in a slightly different arc on his hair, and so
exactly.
It's
and
really
he tries to push it away, but it's always there. It's great.
There's a part earlier that we had to skip through for time, but where he leans against a revolving window, and it's some of the funniest like parts of the film. Just this brief little turn of the window where he loses his balance. And,
his physical work is inspiring. Like when you were talking about me jumping over that log, I would say some of his subtle, Kevin Kline is brilliant at his subtle physical work, like in Fish Called Wanda or whatnot.
Oh my gosh.
I always try to emulate that a little bit.
Yeah, he's really good.
Can anything be done?
Yes.
Yes.
Cold compresses.
No, I'm sorry. They don't work with cupping.
Miracle drugs.
Nurse Nan.
I came as soon as I heard the news.
There's a nurse in the restaurant. Did I miss a meeting?
They begin ad-libbing, they go off book. Just wanted to ask you about, you mentioned some sort of improv finding its way into Wolf on Wall Street. When you wrote things with Pete, was that all scripted, or did you have any breath for improvisation on scene?
The idea, and it's still with everything that I write, like Buffalo and the other stuff I've written too, is write so that the script is tight, and that if you improv on top of that, it'll make it better. And that's kind of what Pete and I did. Is we would, whenever we would shoot something, we'd say, let's make sure we get the page, and then let's have fun, because maybe there's something great, but maybe what we wrote is actually important. We did that on Rec too. There was a ton of improvisation on Rec, but it was just important, especially when you have tight storylines, and with a show like Rec, where there's a lot of stories happening. A lot of times you just have to trim the storyline to its nuts and bolts, to just like the plot. So it's important to get the page. Yeah, what I will say, which is nice about TBS, is sometimes if we would find something really funny in a scene, they would give us a couple extra minutes. Usually you have 22 minutes. Sometimes they would give us, 24, 25 minutes. And a great example of that is in the first season, there's a scene where I'm with Zach Kreger, who plays Owen. And I honestly don't even remember what the scene was about, but I started fake twirling a gun in it.
It is so funny.
Yeah, it was just something that wasn't written. I was just like, oh, here's something fun I could do. And then Zach was like, do it more. And then I did it more. And then the Shippies came over and they're like, do it more. And we just started going.
When you stop and then start again, and he's like, oh, we're doing more of this?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was one of those things where we did it. And I was like, that was hilarious. That's going to get cut. Like, there's 2 minutes of me just going. But TBS saw it and they were like, we got to keep that in, take 2 more minutes. Like,
because it's not repetitive. Like, you keep mixing up these crazy, it's so funny.
Yeah. Inspired by Tombstone, going back. Yeah, it was a Tombstone inspiration.
In season 2, all the stuff with Corey is endlessly funny to me.
Rory's the greatest.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
And just the way that
friends after that. He's
that's
so
great.
funny.
Yeah, he's incredible. Awesome. And in that season, people just keep calling him different names, and it's just he's got a great arc too. If you're talking about
he does.
A character.
His season 2 arc is fantastic.
Oh man. Was that shot on a boat? Like, once you guys get on the boat, like that drunk tank was really there, or how did they?
The drunk tank was at like a warehouse of a resort that it was like the maintenance warehouse.
Weird.
And then they just sealed it off and filled it up with putrid water. And they kept saying to Zach and I, like, go underwater. And we were like, we don't know what this is. There's oil on the top of it. I'm not gonna touch it. It was so gross.
That's terrible.
But the boat was a real boat. The boat was a cruise ship. And what's funny is they didn't really think about the hazards of being on a cruise ship. And so, like, the first day, I didn't shoot in the first couple of scenes when we were there, and I show up on this boat. I'm like, wow, this is really rocking. Like, it was full on that. And I go into where they're shooting. No. All the actors are like green. They're like, we're going to puke, but we got to do this scene. It was rough. They figured out how to fix it, but the first couple of days on that boat were.
Oh God, I get motion sick, so that would have been terrible for me.
You would have been yakking.
Yeah, everywhere.
You really positive about this? It's a lot to give up.
I want to. It's a relief.
Very well. Prepare the ether. Good night.
Sally is about to have her brain removed. Elizabeth steps in. They tend to work out the sequence, and then the evil nurse comes in, and Whoopi steps in to reveal that the nurse was born male.
Doctor!
A second opinion. This is Dr. Franz Blau of the Sex Change Clinic in Bethesda, Maryland.
Thank you. Dr. Randall, after extensive investigation, I've come to the conclusion that it's virtually impossible for you to have impregnated your nurse, Montana Moorhead, because before she came to our little clinic, she was Milton Moorhead of Syosset, Long Island. Hello.
Yes.
Ah.
It was the 90s, guys.
Yeah.
It was
You
the
know,
90s.
incest and this.
Yes, exactly. Not the most sensitive material.
No. The credits have Robert and Lisa, and we see a dance sequence. And this is when I turned to my wife and was like, can I still talk about this movie? And she's like, she had a good positive spin on it, which I don't quite recall, but it was very well said. She's a very well-spoken person. So I was, it quelled that for me. I was like, you know what? If it even starts a conversation that ends in acceptance for somebody, then it's entertainment, okay? So,
I mean,
right.
the truth is, like, it is incredibly insensitive.
Yes.
If somebody made that now, I would be like, that's wrong. You've made a terrible mistake.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's kind of like, you know, there were conversations that weren't being had then that I wish were being had then.
Yes.
But
it's also something soap operas would probably do at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they're not exactly known for being super sensitive. There was a soap opera where a doll was played by a little person.
Oh God.
And
do you remember Passions?
That's the one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes, I forgot about the little person on it.
Yes.
God,
because he turned into a doll some of the time.
Just insane. Insane.
Totally nice. The one thing they could have done to fix it, I think, is if they had just included that character in the dance sequence that plays out during the credits. Like, you know, to make it like everyone's fine, but instead they just that character I looked is not in that scene, so you're just supposed to look, oh, that's the villain.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
Yeah.
There's 4 soap operas still going today. Bold and the Beautiful started in 87, General Hospital from 63, Days of Our Lives from 65, and The Young and the Restless from 1973. Still going strong.
That's amazing.
To this day.
God.
Before we move into the final questions, do you have any final thoughts on Soapdish, Brian?
I mean, I'll say this, like, as a writer actor in Hollywood, whenever I try to write something that's about the entertainment industry, everyone says it too inside baseball. You can't write about entertainment. And I'm like, but for me, as somebody growing up outside of LA in a tiny town, I was obsessed with things like Soapdish because I was like, I want to be there. I want to do that. And for as problematic as it is in many aspects, for me, it was an introduction to something that I desperately wanted to be a part of. Like, you know, The Player, I memorized.
Oh my gosh.
Because I was like, I want to be on that studio. I want to be on that lot. Things like that. I mean, even from like, I was showing my wife the end sequence of Blazing Saddles the other day when they break into the other studios.
Yes.
And there's another incredibly insensitive bit where Dom DeLuise is like directing all of these gay men in the thing. And I was like, that's incredibly insensitive. But as a kid, I wanted to be there. Like I wanted to be on those movie sets. So that's something that Soapdish, that's probably the reason I've watched it 40 times and say so many lines in the movie, is because I wanted to be on that set. And I still think sometimes, because when I do produce, I think part of me is still a little bit Robert Downey Jr. Part of me is that guy, because I saw him and I was like, I could be that guy. I want to be that guy.
You're like, I already have Mr. Fuzzy. I'm one step ahead of Robert.
Fuzzy and I are going to the top.
Great. Well, here's the last little section. Are there any common misconceptions about being an actor? In your opinion, and it doesn't have to be
in my
all
opinion, I'm going to say two contrasting things. One, it's hard work. Like there's a lot of pressure when you're in front of that camera because a few things. One, there's been so much work done up to that moment. And when you mess up that moment, you're the only person messing it up. So for me, I always come ultra prepared. And also one thing about acting that's really difficult is you as an audience member see the perfect version of what's happening right here. But like when we're shooting in Fiji or whatnot, you know, somebody had seen the dailies of the first day of our second season when we were shooting in Fiji. It was 100 degrees outside. It was 100% humidity. It hadn't rained. It was so hot. There was no water or ice because there was a mess up with craft services. So we were literally getting heat exhaustion during these scenes. And so he said he would see, like, I would be sitting there like this, and then they'd yell action, and I'd click in and I'd do my scene, and then they yell cut, and I'd collapse down like this.
Oh, yeah.
So it's hard. Like, you don't see
Yeah.
a lot of those elements that really, like, where like kind of some of the acting training comes in, to be able to wash that away, to say like, none of this is here anymore. We're just doing the scene is really hard. So I bring that up as one contrasting statement to say, if you do that work to be prepared to be able to do all that, then it's really easy. Because the truth is, I didn't have to like write the script. I didn't have to produce or like
Right.
put together the money, all of this. All I did was show up on that day and usually get pampered in a hair and makeup trailer,
Sure.
and then eat some really nice food, have a few coffees, and then go say my lines. So if I do the work and come prepared, then it's pretty easy. So that's
Yeah.
the misconception that I say, is like, it's genuinely hard work. If you put it in, if you put that work in, that hard work in ahead of time and do all that, then it's pretty easy.
Oh, that's great. What is a good day like for you as an actor?
Like a perfect day for an actor would be not a very early call time, like where
Yeah.
I just get to sleep in, and then go into set with some really nice people who appreciate the talent that I bring to set, who wanted me to be there, and then me doing the scene a few times, having fun with it, getting to explore, to improvise some, to maybe add on to the scene, and then going home. Like, I think one of the most fun acting experiences I've had, besides the bigger ones, was when I mentioned The Last OG. Like, that was a really fun set from my experience as an actor who was only there for a week, where everyone was really supportive of each other. We came in, we would do the scene a couple times, and then we'd improvise and have fun with each other, and then we'd
Yeah.
all go home or have a nice dinner or whatever. It wasn't a hard day. I remember on Wolf of Wall Street, Rob Reiner said to me, again, another Rob Reiner story, we were the wedding scene where Leo and Margot get married. That was a night shoot. We went till 8 a.m. that day, and Rob was getting very tired, and he was like, I never shoot like this. I never do. I want to be home by dinner. And he was like, and When Harry Met Sally, the Cat's Deli orgasm scene, we went in there at noon and we were gone by 3:30. It was an easy day. And I'm like, that's how I want to shoot. I
Yeah.
want to be in Cat's Deli, shoot a scene, and get out. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Quick and easy.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about this profession?
I love telling stories. I love inventing worlds and telling stories. Like, I got into this probably for a similar reason that you also got into it, is that when I was growing up, I would get lost in movies, and there was such a joy. I got a joy out of being, being friends with Atreyu in Never Ending Story, or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. Wall Street. I still watch Wall Street and get nostalgic for what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to New York and live like that.
Yeah.
And so to be able to create those worlds that I know other people will get lost in and really enjoy, just brings me great happiness. That's what I love.
Yeah. And I will say, before we get to the last question, that one of my favorite things about your profession, and like Sarah Burns that I talked about before, and it's just a byproduct because it's not your intention. You're doing your craft, but because you do things that are in the comedic realm, so to speak, when people like myself or others are bummed, we can go to the internet, or our treasure trove of things, and watch you or Sarah do things that make us feel good. And that's such a unique thing about this, that like, you did it already, but people can access your efforts at any point and be like, oh man, Knock Knock is so funny, or it's such a cool thing that like your profession yeah, that people can access that, and it can make their day better as opposed to making it worse, which is pretty great.
I mean, that is something, like, I think about that all the time. Like, I think about it a lot with my daughter, like why
Oh, yeah.
she likes to tell these stories that she is. And I'm like, she, like me, loves seeing people laugh and smile.
Yep.
And I still love it. Like, you know, there is a small selfish thing when I'm performing in front of a crowd and I hear a big laugh, like that brings me a lot of joy to myself, knowing that I did something right. But it also, it's like, oh, we're all laughing together. There's nothing as gratifying as that.
Or someone that like you don't even like, we would do shows and you're walking through the crowd at the end and one person would be like, you were really funny. And you're just like, whoa, you're not my mom. Like, that's
It's
so
the greatest
cool.
feeling.
I don't
Yeah,
even
it's
know
the greatest
you,
feeling.
you know? And the
Yeah.
fact that they felt like they had to say something and not just be like to their friends, like that was funny,
Yeah.
you know? It's just, it's pretty great.
It's really special.
And the daughter thing, I wonder if it's like a funny dad thing, because I always put my daughter laughing. I do this with my wife too, but like, that's like my number one thing is like, it's my favorite sounds to hear is them laughing. And so that's what I was wanting to do. And all she does, for better or worse, all the time, my daughter, is like try to bust you up. And it's great, except for the parental parts where you're like, no, this is serious. And she's like, here's another one. And you're like, no.
Exactly.
What did I create?
Yeah, exactly.
Which brings us to the final question, Brian.
Yep.
Brian, what are your dreams like?
Like my actual dreams that I have at night?
Yeah, like sleepy time dreams.
Oh, they're terrifying. They're absolute nightmares.
Oh no.
I have nightmares. I mean, we are living in an insane world. I would say most of my dreams right now are me in a crowded area without a mask. And I'm like, what am I doing? Why didn't I wear a mask? Oh, you're an idiot. You just killed everybody. Like, that's what my dreams are. And then I wake up and I'm like, oh no, it was just a dream. So yeah, that's
So
most of where my dreams are now.
Stress related then.
Pure stress, anxiety.
You don't have the actor's nightmare of like not remembering your line, or
I probably have that once every few months. Yeah, I'll have the actor's nightmare. I've had it enough now that I usually know, like, oh, I'm having that dream that I have all the time as an actor. Like, okay, cool, this is cool. Let's just ride it.
Isn't it weird that anyone that even has done improv, their brain never goes to that with the actor's nightmare? It's always like, I don't know my line. It never goes to like, I don't know my line, so I'll just make something up. Like, it's never, what is that? Someone on the phone? And then they pantomime a phone in the dream. Like, it's never, never the thing.
It's really funny. It is, I mean, like, that's what my dream should be. I did a production of Midsummer Night's Dream, which you mentioned earlier, in high school, where I've actually done that play like 3 times and I don't know why. But in high school, the first time I did it, we only had like 3 rehearsals to do the whole play, which is insane.
That's really weird.
And it was for a festival that we were hosting at my school. And so I didn't know my lines. I didn't know any of my lines. So I improvised Shakespeare, which is insane.
It's so crazy.
It's so crazy. But I just like improvised a bunch of scenes. And so it's like, if I could do that at 18, why can't in my dream just be like, yeah, we'll just improvise this. It's fine.
No problem. This is what happens. Yeah.
I'm gonna give a plug then, as I just said that, to these improvisers in LA called the Improvised Shakespeare Company, where they improvise an entire Shakespeare show. It's some of the best stuff I've ever seen. It's so funny. Thomas Middleditch from Silicon Valley is in it.
Yeah.
And oh my God, these guys are brilliant. I've seen, like, I don't see a lot of live stuff, especially in LA.
Sure.
And pre all of this, I saw them maybe like 7 or 8 times because they're brilliant. So when this is all over, go see them.
Definitely. And it's funny you mentioned Thomas and not mention that he's in Wolf of Wall Street.
He is in Wolf of Wall Street. Oh God. So we're friends. We've been friends. We played a lot of video game hockey together.
Oh.
And he came into Wolf. We had been shooting for like 4 months already. So we were like a pretty tight crew.
Yeah.
And he came in and was just like, what the fuck is going on? Because his scene, we just destroy him. Like the whole scene is us screaming at him.
Yes.
And like Jonah threw a cigarette at his face. Like it was, so he just like literally walked in for a day, got yelled at about like everything he's self-conscious about, got almost burned with a cigarette, and then had to go home. He was like, what happened?
You're like, my new friends are cool.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Well, Brian, thank you so much for doing the podcast. Thank you for watching Soapdish for the 40th time.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
This is really, really fun. Thank you so much, man.
All right, cool.
All right.
Later.
Talk to you later.